Have you retired now, or are you still
I'm still
running
working.
your business?
I am, yeah, I
Running your
came to the,
business?
I do the building trade. I do everything, but half a day. I mean, I just to keep myself active. I don't think I'm the type of person who just sit down and say, oh, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I could do that.
No, you. Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, wonderful. We're now at 6:30, so let's start our event.
Okay.
Welcome to the Inner Space Covent Garden talk. Our talk this evening is one that I think has shown a lot of interest for this time of year. It's how to deal with insecurity. The fact is that no matter how confident we are most of the time, I think just about each one of us will have at some point experienced feeling insecurity. But are our insecurities valid or are they irrational? Are our insecurities making us feel we're not good enough or not as good as someone else? Secondly, do they hold us back from doing what we want and from trying new things? Thirdly, do those insecurities pick holes where there are none? Do we find ourselves overthinking and overdoing everything? If that's the case, then our insecurities are getting the better of us. So we've asked our speaker to share his insights on how to deal with insecurities, to go from insecurity to inner security, and to bring greater self-awareness. Parmjit Basra has an extensive working experience in fashion, education, management, and the construction industry. He delivers self-development seminars whilst being a busy dad and a granddad. Parmjit's going to be sharing with us for the next 40 minutes, and after that, he's going to take us through a short guided meditation. After that, he will take your questions. So please do send in your questions via the question and answer link or via the chat, and I will take those questions and put them to Parmjit on your behalf. Parmjit, thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you, Auntie. Om Shanti, everyone. So welcome to this evening's talk, Overcoming Insecurity. I think most people have experienced some forms of insecurity in their lives. And when we go through that phase, it's a very sort of difficult period. It's a feeling, very much an internal feeling that makes us feel uncomfortable. And even though we may be very secure in a job, in a relationship, there's always something in the back of our minds that makes us feel insecure. So I want to just sort of address why insecurity arises and what we can do to sort of overcome that insecurity. I remember when I was young, I was very fortunate that my father gave me everything that he could give me. He gave me a private education. He really supported me. And then I realized that actually I was not secure as I meant to be, because there was always this feeling inside me, it could all be taken away. And I remember when I was working for my father's business, this was in textiles. We used to do a lot of business with the major high street retailers. Even though we got those orders and I was the sort of main salesperson, I always felt a little bit insecure. The insecurity came because what if we didn't get the orders? What if the business failed? What if, what if, what if? And on an exterior level, everything seemed to go well, but internally, there was this fear of losing everything. And I think insecurity arises when we find it very difficult to cope with a very changing situation, and sometimes it can be very fast. So in this instance, when the business was going on a high, things were great, things couldn't get better. But then the day came when we just extended ourselves too much and the business failed. And I think that's when I really felt insecure for the very first time, having an experience the highs of life, and suddenly it was all taken away from me. I felt, what do I do? Why did it happen? There was a lot of this feeling inside, I should have done this, I should have done that. And there was a whole host of questions that I had to face. But ultimately, to overcome insecurity, it's really a question of realizing that I have to be my natural self. Because growing up, I wasn't being my natural self. I was more trying to conform to other people's perception of me. Maybe I was trying to please them, but I would never felt that this was being my natural self. And of course, when you're trying to be something and someone that you're not, you will always find yourself wanting. And so in business, we had the success of a successful business. We had all the sort of material things that you could buy. But even then, I felt, for example, some of my friends or my family friends, they were not sincere. I felt they had their own selfish motives. And that too was making me feel insecure, because I didn't like people to be sort of very manipulative or have their own sort of agenda. I wanted to be with people who were very sincere, who were very kind and generous. And I suppose most people will experience things like these, even in relationships. There's always a sense of feeling insecure. How long will this relationship? It's too good to be true. And ultimately, things happen, things change. And that's when we realize that actually what's making me insecure is because I'm not being my natural self. So some 30 years ago, I came to this awareness that I have to be my natural self. And it was one of the hardest things that I had to do, because for so long I had compared myself with others, competed with others. And I always found there was always someone better than me. And that competition, that comparison was the sort of root cause of that insecurity. And the moment I started to be my natural self, the competition went, the comparison went. I was the most sort of liberated person in the world. That's how I felt, because I no longer had to prove myself to others, and I no longer felt that I needed anyone's approval to be myself. So I think to conquer insecurity, we have to really look inwards. Why do we feel insecure? It's because we become attached to something. And when we become attached to something, whether it's a possession or a relationship or an identity, that becomes the basis of how we feel internally. So if things are going well, the business is going well, the relationship is flourishing, I feel very good. But ultimately, change is inevitable. And this can be either upwards or downwards. So when things are going up, yes, we have a sense of false security, because we think it's always going to be like this, but there's always a downside. And it's the downside that causes the insecurity. So being in a relationship, for example, I may feel very secure with someone. Now, I've been married, and I'm still married to the same person for a very long time, because we have 4 grandchildren now. But I remember in the early days, it was a very wonderful relationship, because it was almost like we were made for each other. But then as time moved on, the relationship posed its own challenges, in that I started to impose conditions on the relationship I expected. And equally, my wife also had expectations of me. And so when the expectations were met, I felt good. I felt happy. But when those expectations, when those conditions that I had imposed on the relationship were not met, there was always this feeling of, I'm not in control. I feel that I need to exert my personality in this relationship. But we know, based on that, there's always going to be feeling of up and down. There's no sense of security because you have questions of doubt, maybe a question of faith, maybe loyalty, trust. But what made me sort of go beyond all of that was actually to realize that in everything, it's not the world out there that's causing me the problem. It's me. What's making me feel insecure? It's not the changing relationship or the changing circumstances or even this physical body that's constantly changing. It's me. It's because I have forgotten who I am. And by forgetting who I am, I have become attached to the external world. And by being attached to the external world, that's where insecurity arises. Think about people who are attached to their position. I mean, I know that, people in high office, they become attached to their position and they will hang on to that position and they will do anything because there's always a sense of feeling they could lose. And sometimes people resort to extreme measures to sort of keep the situation a status quo. And there lies the problem. It's this inability to cope with change that's giving this sense of insecurity. So I need to be my true self. And I need to understand I'm just an actor playing a role. I'm not the role. That's the problem. The problem is I think I am the role. I think I am the manager. I think I am so-and-so. I own this. This is mine. This attachment is the causes of this instability, this chaos that I experience inside. So I need to go beyond that. It doesn't mean that I can't have ambition. It doesn't mean that I can't enjoy the fruits of my labor or the wonderful things that technology offers us. It just means that I shouldn't become attached. If I become attached to something or someone, then I have given them the power to make me either happy or sad. So I'm at the mercy of the external world. And the simple solution to all of this is I just need to be me. The moment I'm being myself, there's a sense of freedom. And that freedom comes when I no longer have to prove myself. So I don't need to compare with others. I remember when the business failed, it was an extremely difficult period because I couldn't get a job. Nobody would employ me. People always thought that I was going to go in there, steal their ideas and start my own business. I had gone past that stage where I wanted material things or a status. I just wanted a little bit of stability with a regular income. But even that I couldn't find. And the amount of waste thoughts I had, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? How am I going to pay the bills, the mortgage, etc. So you can see that feeling of upheaval was also being revealed in my external relationship with my family as well. So anger would often sort of show itself. But the moment I let go and I started to be my true self, that's when I realized that I had the solution to all of the feelings that I was having inside that made me feel uncomfortable. So I just need to be myself. So I would say to anyone who is experiencing a lot of anxiety and they're worried about the future, don't need to worry about the future. You don't need to be stuck in the past. Just need to be in the present. So I realized before doing meditation, I was always stuck in the past. From time to time, I would sort of go back into the past, trying to analyze what caused the situation to fail. And the more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I felt. And the worst thing was I couldn't switch off. I couldn't let go. So this overthinking definitely did not help. And I was stuck in the past. Although in the present, had to deal with things, but in my mind, I was definitely somewhere lost in the past. So the moment I can be my natural self, I can cope with the past. I can cope with the situations that I'm facing. I have that belief in the self. This comes with accepting the self unconditionally. The moment I start accepting myself, everything changes. So I could have closure of the past. I remember we had a building and we bought the building in 1988 and we paid just over £1 million for it. And it was our building. But again, there was that, oh, I could lose it, it's mine. That mine was the sort of cause of insecurity. And of course, it happened. That day came and it was lost. And I found it very difficult after that to go past that location, that building. I would do everything to avoid it because it sort of reminded me all of the things that went wrong. And there was a lot of a feeling of I'm to blame for this. There was this guilty complex and I couldn't close it. But fortunately for me, 30 years ago, I started to sort of practice meditation. And that was the moment I could be my natural self. And by being myself, I accepted who I am without any conditions. Because I realized the person that I am today was actually because of all those past experiences. And the person that I'm going to be tomorrow is on the basis of what I do now. So when I had sort of accepted myself, it was so easy to let go of the past. Now I don't have any problems going past that location. It's been developed many times. I don't know what the current market value would be, but it'd be worth about several millions, let's put it that way. Do I miss it? No, because it was just a temporary attachment, which I thought was permanent. So insecurity comes when we become attached to something that's very temporary, but in our minds, it becomes permanent. I am so-and-so, I am this, I am that. But if we change our consciousness to the awareness, I'm an actor playing a role, then it's easy to let go of one role and then play another. And then seeing everyone else as actors playing their roles allows me to be focused on my part rather than trying to direct others how to play their parts or tell them what to do or not to do. By being in my own awareness, accepting myself, that's the moment insecurity goes. That's the when I feel very content, very stable. So now, 30 years on, and I'm still learning these matters. When I look at other people, I'm thinking, wow, you're amazing. You're playing this role, and only you can play that role. And you have all these props around you, cars, houses, possessions, but they're just props, and they will go. And so let it go. When I sort of looked at myself, and that was again some really about 30 odd years ago, just at the time of doing meditation, I, like to present myself to attract other people. So it's a very much an external consciousness. And it's almost like this feeling of drop dead gorgeous is coming. And I noticed this white hair. Oh, that moment, that really shook me. That really shook me because I realized I was growing old. So you can see how people can become so volatile, so sensitive to the slightest change in their lives. And so in order to overcome that that situation, which really shook me, I just pulled the hair out. And I thought that was it. It's okay. And of course, what happens? The white hair kept coming. Now I can't pull all the hair out. So it's a matter of dealing with it. So sometimes in life, situations come to make us stronger. So I know that moment when I had the white hair made me realize, why am I trying to pretend that this is not happening? Why am I trying to sort of hold back change? because change is inevitable. It's the laws of physics. And it was easy when I could be myself because, you know, we're bombarded by adverts. You have to dress like this, you have to look like this. And of course, for a brief time, I did dye my hair where there was a little bit of white hair. And of course, that becomes an industry in itself. And I thought, this is crazy. Why do I need to be something and someone that I'm not? Everyone grows old. I just have to accept it. And of course, the moment I became my natural self, there was no problem with the white hair. As you can see, I don't dye my hair. My hair is very natural. And, you know, I look after my body to the best of my abilities. It's getting on. But considering my age, I think I'm doing pretty good. But I know that change is inevitable. But I can cope with change because I have the resources internally to cope with that change. So now I feel happy in what I do. I don't have to prove myself to others, and nor do I need anyone's approval to be myself. And I think that takes a lot of courage, you know, to overcome any forms of instability, any forms of chaos. It really means I have to look at myself, and that requires courage. Why? Because I'm going to see some things about myself that I may not like. Maybe others have pointed it out, but I've avoided it. But I think the moment I show courage and I look at myself, I'm accepting myself. That's the first key step to overcoming insecurity, is when I'm being my natural self. I accept myself, you know, my weaknesses, my strengths. And the moment I accept myself, then I feel I can let go. I can have closure. And when I'm being my natural self, I realize actually I have everything within me. It doesn't imply that I can't have relationships, I can't have ambitions or whatever it is that people strive for. But the only difference is there's no dependency, there's no attachment. So I will look after it. I will look after it as a trustee. I will see everyone as actors playing a role. And we're all playing these roles that only we can play. And by being our natural selves, we feel very secure because I'm not competing with others. I don't need to prove that I'm better than you, that my religion is better than yours, I'm more educated, etc., etc. No, I accept myself. And by being secure and being content with myself, I actually make others feel very secure. Because I know that I was in the presence of a lot of people who were far superior to me. They were richer, they were more wealthier, they had more qualified than me. And there was always this feeling of I'm not good enough, you know? Or sometimes there was the opposite. The arrogant I used to come. Look at me, I'm brilliant. These are all signs of insecurity. So now, accepting myself, I accept others. And of course, when I'm free from competing, when I'm free from having to prove myself to others, I can accept others. And when I accept others, they also feel free. They also feel secure because they no longer have to defend themselves or compete with me or compare themselves with others just to make them feel good. And so when I am secure within myself, I make others secure. And that's when relationships improve. That's when relationships heal. So the secret of my success being married to the same person is that I've accepted her, warts and all, and she has accepted me. Of course, there have been challenging moments, but those challenging moments have also been the sort of springboard to become a stronger person. So I would say if we're going through situations, don't shy away from them. Don't sort of have questions. Why has it come? I don't deserve this, etc. Look at the benefit of it. What I do when anything that comes to sort of really sort of test me, I ask myself the one very simple question: what has this person or individual come to teach me about myself? And if I learn the lesson, then I will put that into action. So sometimes I realize I have to be patient. Sometimes I realize I just have to be a bit more flexible. So by imbibing these lessons, I become a better person. I become a stronger person. And of course, that means that everyone around me also benefits as well. So I don't feel insecure regardless of someone's belief systems, no matter how extreme they are. I don't have any problem with people following a particular path or they don't, because I know who they are. Why do I know who they are? Because I know myself. Each one has a right to play their role the way they want to. And so I need to pay attention to myself. And of course, when we pay attention to ourselves, we really grow, not just on an external level, but inside we become much more accommodating, we become much more tolerant. I mean, I remember once I was with my daughter. She must have been about 18, I think. And I was picking her up from her school and she kept me waiting. And I waited for a long time, all of 10 minutes. That's a long time, by the way, in those days. And when she came, I was a little bit upset with her. I actually got angry with her. I says, why did you keep me waiting? You should have told me. Of course, in those days, there wasn't a sort of mobile phone that was readily available. Anyway, I know I got upset because I was trying to control the situation and I've obviously upset her. Now, fast forward, that situation would never happen because now it's like I'm so happy and full inside. If someone kept me waiting, not a big problem. Whether it's a close member of the family or in a meeting, it doesn't matter. I mean, signs of that is when I'm driving. I drive a lot on the roads, by the way. And in this day and age where there's a lot of traffic and people are always in a hurry, people have a lot of road rage. And I'm thinking, why? Why do people have this? Because they're always rushing from one place to another, trying to be something or someone they're not. And they think that the next thing will be the big thing. There's me just chilling out. Why? Because I'm happy and content with myself. So one thing that I've learned is to become free from all of the upheaval. It's just appreciate everything in your life. Appreciate the little things and the big things take care of themselves. So I don't worry about the future. Of course, these are very challenging times, but who knows what the future holds? But the future is based on the present because I always say to myself, my present has been based on my past. All of those things that happened for a reason, and they happened to make me a better person. It's just that I didn't realize at that time the situation, the individual, whatever happened, came to make me a stronger person. Now I look at myself, as I said, I know the situation has come to make me a better person. And if I recognized it, I will move on to the next lesson. So I pay attention to the present because the most important aspect of time is not the past or the future, it's now. So I appreciate the little things. My tea. I love my cup of tea in the morning. You know, I will drink my cup of tea. When I've drank the cup of tea, then I will go. You know, some people, they may have an appointment and they're rushing their coffee, their tea, or whatever it is in order to get to the next meeting because they may miss out on something. And so when they get to the next meeting, they're rushing their coffee and the tea again to get to the next one. And you think, when are you going to stop? And when are you going to start appreciating? So insecurity arises when we forget our own selves and we try to pretend to be someone or something that we're not. We just need to realize we're all actors playing a role. And the only thing I need to do is to be myself. No one can play my role better than myself. And so when I appreciate myself, I realize within me, there is abundance, absolutely abundance of all attainments. I have love, I have respect, I have contentment, I have happiness. And when I have those, I want to share them with others. And this is the real benefit of being the self. You're able to share with others. So I share in the successes of other people. If they do well, I am so pleased for them. There's no form of jealousy. There's no form of, oh, it should have been me. Why was life so cruel to me? No, I'm thinking, wow, you did this. It's brilliant, because when you yourself are very happy and content, you want to share that happiness with others. And when they experience that happiness, there's no selfish motive, there's just sincerity in that relationship. You really mean it, you're saying it from the heart. You know, people warm to you. And because they warm to you, they are so open. And so everything happens that sort of improves, makes life meaningful. There is a sense of, I love life. So I always appreciate when someone does well. And when times they don't do well, there will always be words of encouragement, because I know people have offered me words of encouragement when I was going through difficult times. It's not that I'm not facing challenges. Of course, we will face challenges, but I have the resources to deal with it. So now I have these resources. I can cope with whatever life throws at me. So it really doesn't matter what's happening on an external level, whether the weather is changing or the politics are changing or whatever it may be happening. I know that to find real happiness, real contentment, to feel very secure, I just need to go inwards and just let go of the outside world. Letting go does not mean I isolate myself from people or situations. No, it just means I've let go of any forms of dependency. So I was just sharing earlier with Arti that my daughter, she's now based in Bangkok. She took a teaching post, started last August. And when she told me in February in 2023, there was an element of surprise initially for a while, because there was this feeling I'm not going to be with her, or she's not going to be with me. And of course, she's got two beautiful children, and I love those grandchildren. And then the whole family moved. And in that moment, she said to me, Dad, don't have attachment. And I thought, wow, wow, she's telling me not to have attachment, because my eyes became a little moist. And then I realized how attachment, how these subtle dependencies are so subtle. You know, they can still, these are very refined strings of attachment that pull us. So having conquered that moment, now it's great. I went to Bangkok earlier this year in February. I'm going again in February in 2025. And when I'm there with them, I will have the best of time. But when I go, I know I will not miss them. So this is the sense of security that comes because I feel secure. And by being secure inside, I allow others to feel and be their true selves. And so they warm to you. So I think the success to any forms of contentment, happiness, is just to look inside yourself and just be yourself and just have that courage. Don't be afraid of people's opinions, no matter what they say or do. No, just be yourself. You know, when you respect yourself, you accept yourself unconditionally, you will accept everyone. And when you accept others, they will definitely accept you. This, I think, is one of the main reasons of finding security in a very insecure world. So I am very comfortable with where I am, but I know that change is going to happen and we will all face change, but I have the resources to cope with that change. So whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens in the next second, that's going to happen. But I have the resources, and that's resource was always within me. It's always within you as well. You just got to connect with yourself. And the moment you do that, you'll find happiness. Om Shanti. Now, you need power. Power to put all of that courage, all of that ideas and thoughts into actions. You know, it's rather like a mobile battery. You know, you've got a battery on your mobile phone. The more you use your battery, the more the battery is discharged. So what do? You have to recharge your batteries. And this is where this reflection, going inwards and connecting with the true self, gives us the power to cope with that change. So it's no longer words. I'm actually walking the talk. And I want you to practice it. So I'm going to give a very simple demonstration how you can sort of connect with yourself. And you can do this throughout the day. You can do this anytime. It can be for a few moments, for a few minutes, or a little bit longer. And you can do this while you're walking, while you're just sitting around. You can do it anytime. And it's not about postures. It's not about repeating a particular word or a phrase. It's just being kind to yourself. So I want you to sit very comfortably, sit very relaxed. Just take a deep breath in very slowly and exhale very slowly. Just turn your attention inwards. Just become the observer of your thoughts. Imagine yourself, you're standing on a bridge and you're watching the river of your thoughts flow by. Just let go of all these thoughts, of words that were spoken, of things to do, of situations. Let them all go. Now on the screen of your mind, just create a simple thought. I am peaceful. I truly am a peaceful being. And I'm sitting here in the center of this forehead, seated on my throne of self-respect. I'm sitting in this fortress of peace, free from the influences of the past, free from expectations. Here I can be my true self. I've removed all the labels and masks. I've come to the essence of who I am, a being of peace. And within me, I am adorned with these treasures of virtues, the virtues of happiness, the virtues of love. There is nothing lacking within me. How beautiful this moment is. This is my natural state, my natural awareness. And I come to the essence of this peaceful being. I see myself like a pure light, a tiny star sparkling in the center of this forehead, wearing this costume, the body. I remind myself, I am the master of the self. I am the creator of these thoughts. It is my choice to create the thoughts that I want. And I experience these peaceful thoughts. these benevolent thoughts, these kind thoughts. And I feel confident. I feel relaxed. I feel secure. Well, this is the real me. This is who I truly am. I feel relaxed. The body feels relaxed. I keep reminding myself of who I am. I am a being of peace. This amazing point of light. My light shines brightly. It can never be extinguished. I just hold this thought. I am a peaceful soul, an embodiment of peace. Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal stories as well, and showing us how through different steps we can create an inner security for ourselves. There are a number of questions that have come through already, so I'm going to start with the one that came in right at the beginning. At the beginning of your talk, and it was, if we don't focus on the future, we might not get anywhere in life, finally. What's your thought on that?
I think the future takes care of itself when we pay attention to the present. Look, my present, your present is based on past actions. So it is logical, it is sensible to realize that the future is based on now. If we're trying to change others, if we're trying to change the future, then surely that change has to begin with the self. So if I change myself now, then my future is already taken care of. If I care for myself, I care for others, I care for the environment, then the future for others is also taken care of. The environment is also taken care of. So I would say, you know, don't waste too much time about the future. Who knows what will happen in the future? No one can predict what's going to happen tomorrow or in the next moment. But the one thing that we can do is to pay attention to the present. So the more I am in this present moment, the more I'm in control, in charge of my future and the world's future.
Thank you. Is it possible to stop feeling insecure about constantly comparing yourself to your partner and not feeling good enough for them?
I think for some people, it takes time. For some people, it can happen instantly. It's a question of how quickly I can accept myself. The moment I can accept myself, then I'm not afraid to reveal my strengths or my weaknesses. And I'm happy to share the things that have sort of held me back. And I think when I'm being my natural self, then it is easy to accept others because if I don't accept myself and I'm still putting on a facade, I'm still trying to pretend to be something or someone, or I'm still trying to sort of please others because it's a tick box exercises, then there's always going to be a sense of insecurity. And I think in any relationship, there has to be trust, there has to be transparency, there has to be honesty. And I think those qualities first start with the self. So I think in time, for the majority of people, in time, they can be overcome. I sincerely believe, and I know I have seen in others who have already reached that stage, it can be done. So I look at others who have aspired to those situations, to that stage, and I realize I too can do this. And if I can be my natural self, I can allow others, and then they can change and others will change. So it has a sort of a domino effect.
Thank you. The next question that's coming is, how about when others do not respect my boundaries and I have to break contact because things are so bad and I get emotionally abused even more? I'm going downhill and feel lonely and lost as these people are my family and they're
Yes.
being volatile. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think again, it comes back to having the courage and accepting the self, and and honesty is very important. Of course, we all have boundaries, and if as long as we feel comfortable with those boundaries, I mean, I have certain principles in life, I will not compromise those. And so if there's a difference in that lifestyle or those sort of, you can say, values or virtues, then I don't have a problem in telling people with transparency. Obviously, we have to be tactful. We have to be careful how we engage with others, but it can definitely be done. But you have to be discerning when to say it and how to say it and what to say. Too much, maybe over the top. Too little may not have any impact at all. So sometimes it's best to be clear with others, and those moments can be awkward. I know I've experienced it, but I think in the long run, looking at the big picture, you'll feel much lighter. And if someone is taking advantage of you, I would definitely take measures to either sort of address them, or if it's a situation that you may find it's very difficult, you may have to seek external help as well. I'm not a trained counselor or an advisor, but I would just say have that belief in yourself, be sincere, and you will find at the time of need you will get those resources. So have courage. Don't avoid it. Certainly, if there's a situation where someone is taking advantage of you, whether it's in physical or whether it's emotional, or people take advantage of people in many different ways. I think it's you have to be strong. You have to sort of say, okay, I'm going to be myself and I'm going to say what I feel. But again, you have to choose your own moment, and only you will know what to say and when to say it.
Thank you. Um, how what about attachment to our children? Could you share a bit more about that? But alongside that, how do we keep a balance, not being attached to our spouse, but remaining truly committed, loving, attentive in the relationship, so the family
Yeah,
relationship?
I think people get attached to their very near and dear ones. And I can understand how that happens because I've experienced it. And even though they may not be in front of us, they may be in the other side of the world. We may have never met them. And still, we hear news that they've sort of moved on. It does hurt. I think to overcome attachment it is where I need to look at myself. attachment arises because it becomes a form of a dependency. It becomes a form of, well, I am sustained by that relationship. And so I lose my own sort of independence. And I think to overcome attachment, you need to first look at yourself and be happy with yourself and appreciate who you are. And by appreciating the self, you will then be sincere with others. So when you interact with others, you will give them the utmost love. I mean, we shouldn't equate attachment with that I'm not giving love or I want love. No, when I talk about attachment, it's a form of influence, it's a form of dependency. When I become spiritually detached, I become unconditional. Whether they love me or they don't, I can still give love. So when we're in front of our children, we see them as yes, our children, but we also see them as friends. We also see them in different relationships, and we share that some of the things that where there's a commonality, but there are other aspects when okay, they may be different, but I still appreciate what they do. And I think the more I am happy and content with myself, the more my relationship with others will improve as well. But if there's attachment, it's definitely a conditional relationship. When I'm spiritually detached, I am more loving, and that means I accept. From expectations comes acceptance. This is how you overcome attachment. First, appreciate yourself and appreciate others. Allow them to be themselves. Because when I grew up, I was very much meeting the expectations of my father, who had of me. And it was very difficult to break that because my father was, because he wanted me to do this, wanted me to do that. And years later, he said, I should have let go of you because you had so much, talent. And I says, Dad, it doesn't matter. It's gone. But that was based on attachment. Now I'm sort of emotionally free from that attachment. I don't have any forms of sort of regrets or etc. I can be very giving, very generous. And you'll find that when you're giving without any conditions attached, they will reciprocate those same feelings. And so this is a sign of conquering attachment when you can just let go. It's a wonderful feeling. It's freedom for everyone.
There's another aspect of this that's coming up about having parents that have perhaps passed or are coming to the end of their life now. How can you interact with them without that attachment?
Love them, appreciate them, cherish the moments that you were together and don't have any regrets. I should have been there. I could have done so much. No, whatever your part was with that individual, that was your part. And just allow them to play their part. And when that moment comes, they have to leave, send them good wishes. Always have loving wishes, and they'll go away and they'll go wherever they have to go and they'll play their new part and they'll bring happiness to that new location with new actors, but always have good wishes for them. But don't feel, why have you left me? I could have done so much more. Don't wait for tomorrow. Give them your love now. Appreciate this moment. And when that moment comes, let it go. And you will have to let it go with love. Not, oh, why have you left me? None of these questions, And that again comes back to the essence. How do I feel comfortable with myself? The more I be my natural self, the more I can be others. Remember, it's at times of like these when there's a moment of bereavement or when someone is close to passing by, we actually think about the real self. And so look at others as a soul, an eternal being of light that's just now moving a location and changing their address. So you played your part, let them go. And in your life, there will be other actors who will come and who'll fill that space.
Thank you. What if you don't like your natural self? And just to put another slant onto that question, what if you've not got to the point where you are content or happy with where you want to be? Whether it's your career, your family, your personal qualities, I don't feel that I'm where I should be right now or where I want to be in my life with those.
Yes, I understand how people feel. Sometimes they feel they should have achieved so much more. I've had those thoughts, and I think it ultimately comes back to the awareness. Well, this is who I am. This is my path. Let me enjoy my path. I think we need to get away from where we're constantly being influenced by family and friends, society. You have to look like this, you have to do this, and only then you'll be happy. That happiness is very temporary. That respect is so artificial. I think we need to accept the self. We need to realize I am unique. So never ever put yourself down. Never ever have doubts in yourself. Always respect yourself. Always accept yourself unconditionally. The moment you be your natural self, you don't have to worry about how you look in front of others or how you speak. You don't have to compete or compare. You don't need to prove yourself. You just need to be yourself. And the moment you're being yourself, who cares what the world thinks of you? It's how you see yourself. So that's their business, you know, but pay attention to your business. You know, it's like people say, mind your business. So be yourself. Never, ever, never, ever put yourself down. Don't look to the past. Don't say to myself, I could have done. Of course, we could have done more, but it wasn't to be. I've accepted it, move on. But right now, let me appreciate this moment. If I'm appreciating this moment, I will definitely appreciate the next moment. That's how happiness and contentment comes. So accept yourself, appreciate yourself, love yourself.
Okay, so the next couple of questions, let's put them together. We come across from time to time toxic people who just want to bully and destroy our self-esteem, of feelings of security. There's that side, but there are people who just will not accept us in the workplace and will always criticize or exclude us. So that whole work situation or relationship situation.
That is an issue that's quite prevalent all over the world, where people can't accept others, and it comes down to just a sense of insecurity, because people feel insecure because of someone's different in color, or because of their religion, or because of the way they look, maybe their gender. I mean, these are all very sort of topics nowadays that people find very difficult to cope with. I say, don't worry about that. Be yourself. Do the best that you can that you can be, that you can do. And if you find that it becomes very toxic, then you have a number of choices. You can try to change. You can try to educate people. I mean, it's just lack of education, I think, that causes a lot of problems in today's world. But it's also, if you feel that it can't be done, then you can always change your environment situation. I was talking to someone about this, and I was saying that you know, I don't see much color in your company, and I think that's the detriment of your company growing. Then I gave the examples. I said, do you know the biggest companies in the world? They're all run by Indians. You know, Microsoft, Google, Adobe, MasterCard, just to name a few. And, you know, NVIDIA, they're of Chinese descent. And I'm saying to you, say, look, talent is not confined to a particular gender or a particular religion. Everyone has talent. Just accept them. You know, when you accept yourself, you will flourish and everyone flourishes. But there will always be situations where there will always be sort of, you can say, a lot of conservatism. People don't like the change, and it all comes back to feeling insecure. First of all, be happy with yourself. When you're content, you will radiate that happiness, that contentment, and others will be drawn to you. It may not happen instantly, but in time it will happen. So I would say, you know, if you can't change it as a last resort, then find another location, another job. But most of all, do not compromise your own self-respect, even if others are putting you down because of the color of your skin or your gender or your age or whatever it may be. Let go of that. That's how this world is trapped in so much this insecurity because of this identity attachment. Let go. Just be yourself. And who cares what others say about you? It's more important how you see yourself. That's the most important aspect in life. So I often give examples like these big multinationals. You know, they have people who are at the top based on merit, not because of their religion or because of their gender or because of their belief system. Because in business, the only thing that counts is the bottom line. And to increase the bottom line, you need to recruit the best. And the best can't come from anywhere. And always see yourself as the best.
Are you okay for a few more minutes?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, because I know we're running over now. There is this thing of childhood trauma, and that feeds into insecurity. And we know that when there has been trauma, it affects the nervous system because the nervous system then adapts to that, and will always respond from that. So it stays stored in our body. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I think there's two things here. One, seek medical profession where you can. But the second aspect is be kind to yourself. Be very benevolent. Be very merciful. You know, if I'm holding on to things of the past that are very traumatic, it does have an impact on the physical body as well. So I know from my own experience, I fell down once from a first floor, and I was rushed to A&E, and they put 13 stitches on my forehead, and the doctor said it's going to leave a scar on you. And can you imagine how I felt at that moment? For a few seconds, I forgot the wonderful being that I am, this soul. And suddenly I came back into that awareness. I'm a soul. I says, no, I'm the master of this body. So whilst the doctor said, yeah, it's going to leave a scar, I told myself, no, I'm going to remove this scar. I'm not going to have an incident like this have a permanent sort of a memory on me. No. So I started to have thoughts of good wishes and pure feelings for the cell. I visualized these cells that were torn, and I visualized them coming back together and stronger. So if you're going through a situation, first have good thoughts for yourself. And if you look very carefully, you won't see that scar on my face, but it's still there. It's extremely subtle. You'll need a microscope to see it. But had I not had good wishes for myself, then that situation would have left a permanent scar on me, not just physically, but mentally as well. I would have had regrets. Why did this happen? I should have done that, should have done this. No. Always have good wishes for yourself. You can't change the past. I can't change the past, but I can certainly learn from the past, but I need to let go of the past. How do I do that? Being kind to the self, being loving to the self. And in that awareness, you will have the capacity to let go. And this healing that takes place within the self will automatically happen by having respect for the self, having good wishes, loving feelings, benevolent feelings, merciful feelings for the self.
Parmjit, thank you so much